Good morning and welcome back to Parsha Perspectives for today. We have the schus, the great merit and privilege this morning of studying together Parsha's Vayeishev, page 198 in the Art Scroll Stone Chumash, continuing our study of the story of this tremendous narrative that is unfolding. As I say every week, we know where it goes, we know what happens next, and yet there is such suspense. There's so much to learn and to unpack, so much to derive and to extract from these lessons from the Parsha for today, because the Parsha may remain the same, but we are different, the world is different, and the lessons that we can take away are different. Our Parsha series is generously sponsored by Becky and Avi Katz and family in memory of David Grossman, David ben Menachem Manish. Our learning is in his memory. Page 198. Vayeishev Yaakov be'eretz Migurei Aviv be'eretz Canaan. And Yaakov was living be'eretz Migurei Aviv, in the land of his forefathers. Be'eretz Canaan, be'eretz Canaan. The Bas Ayin, the Heilige Bas Ayin, whose Yurtzai was just observed last week. The Bas Ayin brings the following: Vayeishev Yaakov be'eretz Migurei Aviv. Rashi tells us, Bikesh Yaakov leishev b'shalva. That Yaakov simply wanted some serenity, some peace and quiet. All Yaakov wanted was no tension, no drama, no ups and downs. Bikesh leishev b'shalva. Who doesn't want that? Our world has been so chaotic and complicated. And all Yaakov wanted, and all we really want, is some peace and quiet. He wanted leishev b'shalva. Kafatz alav rogzo shel Yosef. And when he requested that, when he wanted that, when Hashem perceived that that was what Yaakov wanted, was his goal, he was overcome with rogzo shel Yosef. The whole episode that we're about to see and study, the story of Yosef being kidnapped, sold into slavery, left in prison, falsely accused, all of that. Tzadikim mevakshim leishev b'shalva. Omar Kadosh Baruch Hu l'dayim tzadikim asher mesukan lehem la'olam haba el mevakshim leishev b'shalva ba'olam hazeh. And Rashi says tzadikim are righteous. They want to sit in serenity and tranquility. And Hashem says it's not enough that in the world to come there's a special place, a special space you'll be able to enjoy. You want that not only in the world to come. You want that here and now. You want that in this world too. Nah, not happening. You're not getting it. So at the exact moment that Yaakov says, "Where's my palm tree? Where's my chaise lounge chair? Where's my pina colada? I just want to sit by the pool. Just want to play a little mahjong and shuffleboard. Just want to get in a little tennis and golf. Bikesh leishev b'shalva. I just want to retire to South Florida." And Hashem says, nah. Life is not about retirement. Life is not about peace and quiet, serenity and tranquility. There's work to do. And when is there breakthrough? When do we break through boundaries? When is there growth spurt? When there's tension. As the result of conflict. Everybody knows the story of the pearl. The pearl emerges from the oyster? Clam? Oyster. There's a tension in the oyster, there's agitation in the oyster, and it produces the pearl. The most beautiful jewels come not from that which is sitting comfortably, but when there's a tension, agitation, when a person nevertheless recovers, perseveres, emerges, the pearl is born. So the classic way of understanding Rashi is that Yaakov, like so many of us, reached an age where he said, been through enough, been there, done that. All I want is some peace and quiet. Kadosh Baruch Hu says, nice try. Not going to happen. You're never done. You're never done. You never reach that age. You'll never have quiet, no drama. That's not what this life and this world are really all about. We're tested, we grow, we become better, we pass it forward. The Pashtus HaKavanah min Amaros Taharos Nadarach Mishrivka. And he's quoting the Bas Ayin. The simple understanding of Rashi, Aderach Bitmiyah. Aval Bas Ayin Hekshazeh. Tariksiv Rotzon Yereav Ya'aseh. The Bas Ayin was bothered. What was wrong with what Yaakov wanted? After all, do we not say in Ashrei every day, Rotzon Yereav Ya'aseh? Hashem, you fulfill, you perform the will of the righteous. Rotzon Yereav, the Rotzon, the will of Yereav, those who fear you, Ya'aseh, you do. So Imkain Lama Lo Ya'aseh Kadosh Baruch Hu Rotzon Shel Yaakov Leishev b'shalva. Why couldn't HaKadosh Baruch Hu answer in the affirmative? Why couldn't he let Yaakov live with some peace, some serenity, some quiet, some happiness, some joy? So the Bas Ayin, he translates, he understands Rashi entirely differently. You listening? I never heard this my whole life. I always understood Rashi a certain way. The Bas Ayin understands it entirely differently. Because Chazal tells, the Medrash tells us, the truth is that it was Yaakov who originally was destined to descend to Egypt, chained, The Gilgal HaKadosh Baruch Hu Mechirash Shel Yosef Sha'idei Zayered Yaakov L'Mitzrayim B'Chavod Gadol. It was Yaakov. The Jewish people had to get to Egypt. We'll get to why. Why did we have to go to Egypt? What lesson did we need to learn? What experience did we need to have? But we needed to spend a little time in Mitzrayim, in Egypt. We had to spend some time in Mitzrayim. Originally, says the Medrash, Yaakov was going to bring us down, chained. Yaakov was bringing us down. Yaakov would be in slavery and suffering. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu instead paid it forward, and it wasn't Yaakov, it was his son Yosef. So that when Yaakov came down, how did Yaakov come down? With dignity, with honor, with glory, with a parade and an entourage and a welcome celebration. Uvezehu mevar divrei Rashi. Kevan shabikesh Yaakov leishev bashalva. Al kein amar Kodesh Baruch Hu devadai esa kein liYaakov v'yismalei ritzono. Don't read it that Yaakov wanted to live with peace and serenity and quiet and no drama. And Hashem said, no, that's not the purpose of this world. Get to work. I'm going to test you. The Bas Ayin reads it entirely different. Yaakov wanted to leishev bashalva, and Hashem said, okay, because Ritzon Yerav Yaseh. Hashem fulfills the will of those who fear Him. Harei Ritzon Yerav Yaseh v'zeu she'amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'nichusa shebe'emes lo dayan l'tzadikim lefi ma'aseihem haschar shemesukim le'laba. And that's why it's not sarcastic or cynical or a question. It's not enough for the righteous that they want reward in the world to come. They also want peace and quiet in this world. No, don't read it as a question, sarcastic from Hashem. Read it b'nichusa. The Bas Ayin says, Taka, it's not enough that the righteous get peace and quiet in the world to come. They deserve it here now too. So instead of bringing Yaakov down in chains, Kafat alav rogzo shel Yosef, Hashem orchestrates and curates and choreographs that it's Yosef who comes down, who's sold. And when Yaakov comes down, he comes down with honor. He comes down with glory. Why do I share? It's a fascinating reread or reinterpretation of Rashi. Interesting, I never heard it before. The Heilige Bas Ayin, it's fascinating. But it also strikes me and occurs to me that in the moment that sometimes we want and we request and we ask for things for ourselves, be careful what you ask for. Because here, Hashem fulfills Yaakov's request, but who suffers instead? His son. Hashem had to bring about a certain result. And Yaakov intervenes, intercedes, and he appeals to Hashem and he says, that result, don't bring it down through me. Hashem says, okay, no problem. You're righteous. I won't do it through you. Come here, Yosef. You're going to suffer instead. Had Yaakov known that Yosef would suffer instead, would he still be Bikesh Leishev B'Shalva? So we sometimes don't know. And we have to be careful to protect ourselves from ourselves. And to ask Hashem, here's the way I see it. Here's what I want or need. Here's what I hope it works out. But you do you. You do what you see is best, the way you see is best. And sometimes we have to be saved. V'shavasam yoshiem. We continue also in Ashrei. What do we say? Kadosh Baruch Hu, you hear shavasam v'yoshiem. You hear our prayers, and you save us. If you hear our prayers, why do we need to be saved? If we're being saved, did you hear our prayers? So commentators say, you may recall this from Ashrei. Last night we hit Siddur snippet number 600. Big milestone. Big mazel tov. Thank you. Apparently nobody's as excited as I am. But I'm the only one who's heard all 600. But 600. We're in V'sech Hazeh and into the end of the Amidah. All the way back in Ashrei. Several hundred snippets ago, we explained. Why does HaKadosh Baruch Hu Shavasam v'Yoshim? Why do we have to be saved if He hears us? Because sometimes be careful what you ask for. You wanted that job? You force Hashem's hand? You pressure and mutcher Him? You relentlessly beg Him? He says, no problem. That job's not best for you. And it's going to be a miserable boss. And you're going to suffer and it's going to be difficult. But here's the job. You want that shidduch? You daven that it go through. You work on it going through 7,000 references, interrogations, interviews, pictures, resumes. You demanded, you asked Hashem, you begged it go through. Be careful. So v'yoshiem means sometimes He hears our tefillah, v'yoshiem, and He saves us from ourselves. He doesn't answer positively. He doesn't answer in the affirmative for what we're asking, because what we think is best for us, it's not best for us. So that's why it's so important when we daven to say to Hashem, I'm not trying to twist your arm, do it my way. I'm trying to tell you from my limited, finite view and vision, this is what I think is best. But choice between me and you, let's go with you. Let's go with you. If you're going to close this door, open another. Because if that's not the right job, that's not the right shidduch, if it's not right for me to leishev b'shalva, because instead you're going to give it to my son, I'm going to suffer through my son, you do you. Let's do it your way, Hashem, not my way. So this new interpretation, the Bas Ayin's understanding and reading of Rashi and Chazal, is interesting because it's very different than what we've seen before or how most of us have learned it until now. But I also think it's interesting because it's a reminder to be careful what we ask for and how we ask for it, and to ask for it with humility and flexibility, that Hashem, I don't know the great calculation and the matrix above, so from my perspective, this is what I think would be best, but I don't want to pay it. I don't want to pass it off to one of my children. So you do what you think is right, in the most right way, in the best way. That's what we ask. That's what we ask the Ribbon Shalom. Okay. Next, Perek Lamed Zayin Pasuk Beis. Moving right along. Eila told us Yosef ben Shvasrei Shana. Eila told us Yaakov Yosef ben Shvasrei Shana. Hayaroes Achav Batzon v'Unar es bnei Bilba es bnei Zilpa Neshei Aviv v'Yaveh Yosef es dibasam ra'a el Avihem. So immediately we continue. That's what Yaakov wanted, and Hashem made something else unfold instead. These are the toldos. What are the toldos? Not the first time we're seeing that word. What are toldos? Offspring, progeny, outcome. These are the toldos of Yaakov. Yosef is 17 years old when he's a shepherd with his brothers, with the flock, but hu na'ar, has been a Bilav, has been a Zilpa b'nei. He's a youth with his sons of Bilah and sons of Zilpa, his father's wives. And Yosef had this terrible practice. He would bring dibasam ra'el avihem, evil reports. He would report negatively about his brothers to their father. Now, one question I'll pose, but we're not going to address. It's addressed by many, but I'll leave it to you as a question. I got to keep you coming back future years. Eila told us Yaakov. How many sons does Yaakov have? He's got 12. He has 11 until now. He's got a lot of sons. It's setting it up for a disaster that even the Torah seems to be contributing to the problem. Yaakov favors Yosef, and the Torah seems to be favoring Yosef right now. These are the offspring of the great Yaakov. Yosef, Reuven, Shimon, Levi, Sachar, Zvulun, Naphtali, Dan, Asher, Gad. They're not, hi, hello, yeah, what about me? They're almost, and Dinah, and each of them was born with a twin, a female twin. So where's everybody else? Eila told us these are the offspring. Where's everybody else? Where's everybody else? We know the way it does not work out well when the family lists a Mazel Tov in the weekly and you left out one of the kids. It doesn't work out well when you take out an ad in the journal of that organization, signed on behalf of the parents, some of the children, and you leave off one of the kids. And here the Torah leaves off all of the kids, except for Yosef. And that's how this whole problem begins with, because Yaakov favors Yosef, and here the Torah seems to favor Yosef. Eila told us, Yaakov, these are the progeny, the offspring, the continuity of Yaakov. This is his legacy. Yosef, he's 17 years old, and he's a shepherd. Okay, where's everyone else? Where are all the older brothers, those who come first? I'm leaving that for you as a question. But now on the words, Vihu Na'ar. Vihu. Vihu is a pronoun, and he is a Na'ar. Who's he? So the simple understanding of the text is, who is the Na'ar? Yosef. Yosef's 17 years old, and at 17 years old, he still acts somewhat, and again, it's not me saying this, lightning shouldn't strike, it's the Torah. He's a little bit emotionally immature. He's an immature 17 years old. He's still reporting negatively. He's still tattletaling. In my family, we were told snitches get stitches. And Yosef didn't get the memo, snitches get stitches. We don't endorse violence. Of course, I'm not, okay, all the disclaimers. But you don't tattletale. You don't turn in. You know, siblings can have rivalry. Siblings can fight. Siblings can have tension. Siblings can compete. But one unwritten rule among siblings, you don't snitch. You don't tattletale. You don't turn in. You're not moser. There's no tolerance for that. Even as parents, sometimes we say, you know, when one child comes to tell on another, you don't hold the child they're telling about accountable. You tell them, listen, I got to deal with that. What they did may be wrong, but you can't turn on your sibling. You can't turn on your sibling unless it's for their well-being, to protect them from themselves, and so on. So Yosef, V'hu Na'ar, the simple understanding of the pasuk is V'hu Na'ar. Who's the Na'ar? Yosef comes along the base Aaron, the Karliner. Eila told us Yaakov Yosef. A person always needs to be renewed and rejuvenated and fresh. So he quotes from Rav Asher of Stolin, V'hu Na'ar, shetzarech lios tamid kamo Na'ar la'avodas Hashem Yisborach behischadshus u'bechiyus. Na'ar here is not a criticism. Na'ar here is not a statement of immaturity. Na'ar is a compliment. Be a Na'ar. What is the word na'ar? Limna'er is to shake off, be active, be moving, be youthful, be vigorous, be dynamic, have energy and enthusiasm in your Yiddishkeit, in your life. Ki'ilu la'asad achshav klum. V'yata mascha lavar Hashem yisbarach mitoch his chadshus v'simcha v'chiyas. As if today's your first day. It's your first time putting on tefillin, first time lighting Shabbos candles, first time opening the siddur, first time doing chesed, first time learning Parshas Vayeishev. Na'ar, be a na'ar, youthful curiosity, youthful energy, youthful vigor for life. We mentioned last Shabbos, our drasha was the holy student of Rabbi Nachman, the great Rabbi Nassim, Likutei Halachos, who said, what was Vayeavek Ishimo? Yaakov is wrestling. And there are a lot of words and synonyms for wrestling. Why does it use the word Vayeavek? Avak, dust. So Rashi tells us the simple understanding is, in that wrestling match, they kicked up dust. When two people wrestle on the ground, on the earth, they kick up dust. They kick up dust. But the Heilige Rabbi Nassim says, no, you know what it means, you know what the fight was, you know what the battle was for. This Saro Shel Esav, this alter ego of Yaakov, in the language of IFS, Internal Family Systems, this part of Yaakov, it wanted him to just lie down and collect dust. The image of dust is stillness, stagnation. When does something collect dust? When it just sits. When it just sits, it's lost its usefulness. There's nothing in motion. There's no growth, there's no progress, there's no dynamism. It just sits and collects dust. So this angel says to Yaakov, you're about to reconcile, meet your brother. He wants to kill you. You've got no chance. There's no point. Lay down. Collect dust. You're done. You're finished. It's over. And what's the antidote? What's the answer to collecting dust? Movement, dynamism, energy, enthusiasm, activity, vigor. And that's what Yaakov does. Vayeavek, he wrestles. He refuses to accept. Refuses to accept. V'hu na'ar. Na'ar is to shake off. Shake off that dust. Refuse to collect dust. I don't care what age you are. Don't collect dust. You could be a 100-year-old na'ar, and you could be a 15-year-old zaken. You could be a 15-year-old. By the way, if you sit at 15 years old and all you do is play video games, and you're sitting on your couch and you're collecting dust, then you're an old man even at 15. And if you're a 100-year-old who's dynamic and going and active and excited and energized and enthused in the performance of mitzvos and relationships in life, then you could stay a na'ar even into being a 100 years old, even into old age. V'hu na'ar, maybe the v'hu is not Yosef, maybe the v'hu is Yaakov. V'hu na'ar. Who's the v'hu? But na'ar, says the Beis Aaron, na'ar here is not a criticism, na'ar is a compliment. Lina'er, shake it off. Don't collect dust. Stay youthful, stay active, stay busy, to be a na'ar. Be a na'ar. Perek Lamed Zayin Pasuk Dalet. So what's Yosef's problem? He brings dibasam ra'ah. He has negative reports to the father. He's tattling, he's a snitch. Now Yisrael, Yaakov loved Yosef from all of his sons. I'll pose a second question of the day I'm not giving an answer to. We saw last week that Yaakov's name is changed. That's not accurate. We spoke last week, that's not accurate. Avram's name is changed to Avraham. Sarai's name is changed to Sarah. Yaakov's name is not changed. He's given an additional name. He remains Yaakov, and he also gains the name Yisrael. And an important exercise is to go through Torah and see, when do we refer to him as Yaakov? When do we refer to him as Yisrael? Learn Tehillim. Read Tehillim. When does David HaMelech refer to him as Yaakov? Magid Rav Yaakov. And when does he refer to him as Yisrael B'tach B'Shem? When is it Yaakov? When is it Yisrael? So here, note, in describing the favoritism for Yosef, it does not say Yaakov, which I might have expected, because as we spoke about last week, Yaakov is the lesser name, the inferior name, the non-ideal name, Yaakov. So who showed favor to Yosef? Ahaves Yosef Mikol Banav, it's Yisrael. Yisrael Ahaves Yosef. I would have expected it to be Yaakov. Why does the Torah here refer to it as Yisrael? It's question number 2. I'm not giving you an answer to. Pasuk Dalet, turn the page. Vayiru Echav ki osa ahav aviyah mikol Echav. And the brothers saw that Yosef was more beloved to their father from all of them, by Yisneu'o, so they hated him. V'lo yochlu dabru l'shalom, and they could not translate the words. Lo yochlu, they could not. That part's easy. Dabro, does dabro mean to speak? Lo yochlu ledaber. What is dabro? Lishalom. What letter is missing in the word lishalom? The vav is missing. It's a clumsy phrase. Lo yochlu ledabro lishalom. So Rashi tells us, Lo yochlu ledabro, mitoch genusam lamadnu shivcham, shlo dibro achas bepev achas belev. In this horrible, terrible, miserable episode that has created problems that we continue to suffer from until today, but at least we see something praiseworthy of the brothers. And what's that? At least minimally, they're not duplicitous. They're not hypocritical. They don't, sometimes somebody gives you a hug while they drive the knife into your back. To your face, they're giving you the hug. I love you and the best and kavod harav, and you're amazing. They're driving the knife. They're twisting the knife. Those people that you're with them, I love you, you're my best friend, and I have the greatest things to say about you. But at the Shabbos table, or other times they're done exercising, and to the person they played with, afterwards they're busy talking all about you. These brothers, at least what you see, what you get. They're direct, they're straight, they're transparent. They hated Yosef, and they didn't make any bones about it. They didn't pretend they didn't. Lo yachlu dabro l'shalom. They did not pretend to be kind and friendly and loving to his face, and then behind his back slam him. What you see is what you get. They were transparent. Says Rav Druk in his Lavos Eish, Mori v'Rabbi Sara Torah Gun Rav Chaim Kanievsky Zatzal maybe Rayon Neflash of a pasuk. It says Lo Yechlu Dabur L'Shalom B'Ksiv Chaser Below Ha'uz Vav. The way it appears in the Torah, look in your Chumash, there's no vav in the word L'Shalom. We read it L'Shalom, but how does it appear? L'Shalem. L'Kach Af Bepelo Dibro Imo L'Shalom. Well, you see, Shanamar Ken Kevin Shabbalibam Lohem Imo Shalom Af Bepelo Dibro Imo B'Shalom. Since they were not duplicitous, since they weren't fake, since they weren't one way with this and another way there, therefore, it appears the way what you see is what you get. It's incomplete. Even the printing of the word l'shalom is not with the vav. Ake nemar l'shalom chaser, kevin shel yichlu daber imo b'shalom malei, shemeachar shel dibra achas pe v'achas b'leiv, im kei machma shel imo b'shalom libam, hayachas lam libam ha-shalom imo, af papim lo dibra imo b'shalom, yakein teves b'shalom chasera. The reason you have a ksiv and a Korean ksiv here, the reason it appears without the vav is because they were genuine and honest, and that's how they appeared. Without the vav of shalom, they couldn't say shalom. They didn't say shalom. They didn't act duplicitous or hypocritical. They weren't two-faced, and therefore it appears without the vav. So Reb Chaim Kanievsky, it's not a coincidence we have a Korean ksiv here, because that's exactly the message, as Rashi said, that at least they were transparent. At least they were transparent. But come back to that word dabro. It's a funny word, a clumsy word. Lo yochlu, they could not dabro. So the Chassam Sofer points out, he continues, Lo yochlu daber imo l'shalom. Could have said Lo yochlu daber. They couldn't speak. Daber ito, with him. What does that mean, Lo yochlu dabro? Dabro. Sabir b'zeh shel yochlu achim liros ketzad Yosef medaber imam l'shalom. Who's the dabro? Who's the dabro? It's the second time we're seeing today that the Torah is so beautiful and so open that you can read things so differently. Who's the Vahu Na'ar? Yaakov or Yosef? Who's the Dabro? So the simple understanding is that the brothers are incapable of speaking peacefully to Yosef. There's just a tension, or they can't speak kindly, nicely. It's just there. They do not ever present peacefully. Lo yochlu, they couldn't Dabro Shalom. But the Chassam Sofer understood it differently. Lo yochlu Dabro is not how the brothers speak to Yosef. Lo yuchlu dabro l'shalom. Lo yuchlu liros ketzad Yosef medaber imam b'shalom. They could not experience or interpret or absorb that Yosef was actually speaking to them b'shalom. Yosef may have not been doing the right thing by turning them in, but all he wants is peace. All he wants is to connect. All he wants is to be accepted. He wants to be one of the brothers. Lo yachlu, because they hated him. Vayisnu so they hated him. Velo yachlu, and they couldn't. It's a young person phrase. Young people say, I can't. You can't finish the sentence. You can't what? We finish the sentence. I can't tolerate. I can't accept. I can't go there. I can't continue the conversation. I can't. Young people just say, I can't. Lo yachlu. That's the text here. Lo yachlu. I can't. They couldn't. They hated him. Vaisnu so they hated him. Lo yachlu. I can't. And what couldn't they? Dabro. What they couldn't was Dabro l'shalom. They couldn't accept that Yosef was speaking to them l'shalom. So it's a whole other way of seeing the Dabro. Who is struggling? Who's Dabro? They couldn't speak peacefully to Yosef, or they couldn't see that Yosef was trying to speak peacefully to them. Trying to speak peacefully to them. Rav Natanson of Nathanson understands this differently in his Sefer, the Sholem Vayeishev. He says, what does it mean, Lo Yachlu Dabru L'Shalom? In his commentary on Chumash. He says, what does it mean? L'Shalom Aleichem. Sometimes there's such tension, such animosity between people, such enmity, they're not even able to give a Shalom Aleichem to one another. They can't be in the room at the same time. You know those people? It's the hardest part of making a simcha. Who you can't sit at the same table. Nebuch. We wonder why we still don't have a Beis HaMikdash. Who you can't sit at the same table. Why? Because they can't even give each other a Shalom Aleichem. Lo yachlu dabro l'shalom. They can't. You don't have to be best friends. You don't have to go on vacation. You don't have to go on the cruise together. You don't have to go on the BRS empty nester trip to Panama together. You don't have to go Shabbos meals together. But to give a Shalom Aleichem, you can't walk by and say Good Shabbos. You can't walk by and say Shalom Aleichem. That's how bad it got. That the brothers hated Yosef. Such venom that they couldn't even give a Shalom Aleichem. Lo yachulu dabro l'shalom. They couldn't even give a Shalom Aleichem. Why? What happens over here? Yosef makes these critical mistakes. And he shares, Vayomer Aleim, Shimuna, hachalom hazeh asher chalamti. Hey, brothers who can't even look at me and give me a Shalom Aleichem and hate me so much and keep turning me into, you know what? Let me tell you about my dreams. Now, to say that Yosef brought this upon himself is the understatement of the century. This is very unwise, what Yosef does. And his father's critical of it. Don't alienate your brothers. You contributed to this whole thing. And the brothers answer, they hear, and what do they answer? Perek Lamed Zayin, Pasuk Ches, Vayomru, they hear this dream, and what do they say to Yosef? Hamaloch timloch aleinu, imashol timshol banu, vayasifu otzno oso al chalomosav ve'al dvarav. What are you going to rule over us? You have this whole dream, the stalks and the bowing down, then the stars and the. What do you think? You're going to rule over us? You're in charge of us? You're going to control us? Vayasifu otzno oso, and just when you thought that their hatred couldn't get worse, they hated him even more. Al chalomosav, on account of his dreams, v'al dvarav, and all of his speech, everything that he was saying. What is this expression, hamaloch timloch aleinu? Why the double expression? Why not just say, hatimloch aleinu? Who do you think you are, hotshot, younger bro? You think you're going to rule over us? You're a gornish, you're a nothing. Who do you think you are, these dreams? What are these fantasies? This is what you're dreaming about? This reveals what you're thinking about during the day, your subconscious? But why not just formulate it? Hamaloch, hatimloch aleinu. You think you're going to rule over? What's the double language? Hamaloch, timloch. Says Rav Druk. Yesh levar b'zeh ki achem rotze lomar liyosef she'eni yachol liyos melech aleim im eino melech al atzmo. You think you can rule over us when you can't even rule over yourself. What's the evidence you can't even rule over yourself? You don't even have the judgment to not go tattle to our father. You don't even have the judgment to get along with us, to not alienate us by sharing your dreams. You can't even regulate and control yourself and your behavior and have good judgment, and you think you can rule over us? Hamaloch timloch aleinu? You're not even a melech. You can't rule over yourself. You think you're going to rule over us? That, says Rav Druk, is the double language. Hamaloch timloch aleinu. You think you can rule over us when you can't even rule over yourself? The brothers are making an accurate criticism. It's a fair response to these dreams. You can't be a leader if you can't lead yourself. If you can't regulate yourself, if you don't have self-control over yourself, now, leaders aren't perfect. I'm in a position of leadership, and tell you all the time, I'm very far from perfect. I can give you a long list of people that you can confirm that with. I'm far from perfect. But a person has to demonstrate self-regulation, self-sovereignty, that they can practice what they're preaching. If you can't practice what you preach, stop preaching. If you can't implement in your own life, stop telling other people what to do. If you can't be a melech over yourself, then you can't timloch other people. And that's what the brothers are saying. Say, listen, brother, 17-year-old, teenage brother, first learn to not tattle, first learn to not be a snitch, first learn to control yourself, then you can talk about one day being the senior brother, ruling over us. But until then, hamaloch, timloch, Chazal says, the Gemara Bab Metzia, kshot atzmecha ve'achar kach kshot acherim. First be honest with yourself and then be honest with others. A lot of times people can see all the faults in everyone around them, but they fail to see the faults in themselves. First look in the mirror and then hold up the mirror to everyone else. Kshot atzmecha ve'achar kach kshot acherim. First work on yourself and then you can work on others. You see this also in the pasuk in Parshas Emor. We'll read later that there's a mitzvah. The mitzvah of hocheach tochiach, the mitzvah of tochecha. Hocheach tochiach es amisecha. Give rebuke, criticism, encouragement to others. Why the double language there? Hocheach tochiach. Just say to be mochiach. Just say hocheach. What's the answer? Hocheach tochiach. If you can rebuke yourself, maybe you're in a position to rebuke other people. But if you don't ever rebuke yourself, if you don't take inventory, you don't reflect, you don't introspect, you don't work on yourself, you're in no position to work on other people. Hocheach, work on yourself. Tochiach, you work on other people. Kshot atzmecha, achar kshot acherim. And here to hamaloch, timloch. First, rule over yourself, regulate yourself. Then timloch. Then maybe you'll be in a position to be able to encourage other people. Why does it say hamaloch, timloch, hamashah? Why the double also? Hamaloch timloch, imashol timshol. What's the difference between a melech and a moshel? It's a famous Vilna Gaon on that, but you'll have to look at that on your own too. 3 great questions for your Shabbos table that you're going to have to come up. You got to do some work here, people. We're not just putting out the coffee and the slushies and the cinnamon buns. You got to do some work too. So I'm giving you questions. That's the 3rd one of the day for you to work on. Engage, be creative, connect with the Torah, the text, not just here to spoon feed. So 3rd question for you to think about on your own. Perek Lamed Zayin, Pasuk Yud Beis. Turn the page. So the brothers are incredibly jealous, and the father, Yaakov, is also rebukes Yosef. What are you doing? You're my favorite. I love you. I'm spoiling you, but you're not helping yourself here, Yosef. What are you doing telling these dreams to your brothers? But nevertheless, Vaviv Shamar es hadavar, and Yaakov, nevertheless, what does he do? He keeps the matter in mind. What in the world does that mean? Shamar es hadavar. Rashi says, Hayamamtin u'mitzape masa yavo. Even though he criticizes Yosef for sharing the dreams with his brothers, he holds on and waits for these dreams to come true. Because Yaakov knows that these dreams are not nonsense. There's truth to them. They're going to be realized. Shamar, milashon, to be shomer, is to wait, to anticipate. He's waiting and anticipating when are these dreams going to happen. Perek Lamed Zayin, Pasuk Yud Beis. What happens? The next part. Yosef is sent by his father. The brothers went to be liros es tzon avim b'Shechem, to shepherd their father's flock in Shechem. And Yisrael, notice again, we went back to Yaakov to Yisrael. Vayomer Yisrael al Yosef. Who tells Yosef, Halo achecha reim b'Shechem, your brothers are busy in Shechem, v'chavesh lachacha aleim. Go. Vayomer lo hineni. He says, your brothers are in Shechem. Are they not? Come, I'm sending you to them. And Yosef says, I'm in. I'll go find them. Now there's a subtext going on here in this whole story. We've shared it many times before. At that moment that Yosef says, Hineni, I'm here. What does Yosef think, perhaps? Why is his father sending him? A moment ago, Yosef is sharing these dreams. It's alienating the brothers even more. They hate him with greater intensity, and all hope seems lost. And sometime later, now Yaakov, Yisrael, not Yaakov, Yisrael says to Yosef, you know, your brothers are off at Shechem. They've been doing the work, shepherding. Go check them out. Go bring them lunch. Go say hi. Go see how they're doing. And Yosef says, oh yeah? Hineni. What might Yosef think? Why is his father sending him? Because it's time to finally be accepted. Yosef's the exception here. He's the only brother from this mother, right? Binyamin, but he's the only brother right now from this mother. And he's never fully been included. He's never fully broken in. He's never been one of the brothers in this fraternity of brothers. And now maybe he thinks, why is my father sending me? How has he set this up? Because this is it. The brother's going to welcome me with open arms. We're going to have a picnic, a barbecue. It's finally, I'm breaking in. You can also maybe from here understand why you also have the opposite problem. What's the opposite problem? I think the battery might have just given out. You also might have the opposite problem. And what's the opposite problem? When in fact, he sees his brothers, and the brothers are not there greeting him with a picnic or a barbecue, what instead happens to him? They want to kill him. They throw him in the pit. They sell him into slavery. Now he's languishing. How many years? 22. Why didn't he call Yaakov? Text, WhatsApp, email, phone, pigeon, courier. Why doesn't he somehow contact Yaakov? Now we understand part of the time he couldn't. Part of the time he's the viceroy of Egypt. Why doesn't he dispatch somebody to his father? It has been suggested because he thought maybe his father's part of this conspiracy. After all, what set him out on this journey that ended him in a pit and landed him in Egypt? His father said, go check on your brothers. So when you see it from that perspective, he had good reason to think his father was in on this plan. And maybe that's why there was this delay. And only later does he learn, when the brothers come down, spoiler alert, later, when the brothers come down, Parshas Vayigash, and he's going back and forth, and he says, tell me again about your father. Say, oh, and he sets up the condition where he holds Binyamin. They say, we can't do this. Why not? Because my father already lost a son. He's inconsolable. We can't do this to him. Ooh, Yosef now hears, my father's inconsolable? You mean he wasn't part of the plan? You mean he didn't do this? It's not his fault? He's inconsolable? Ooh, that affirms to Yosef, my father wasn't part of the plan. So I know I'm going ahead and I know I'm spoiling, but you can understand, you're picturing this story unfold. Vayomer lo hineni. Yosef is excited. Here I am. I'm ready to go. Peanut butter and jelly? Flesheks? What should I bring for the picnic? I'm in. Go check on the brothers. And then when he, lo and behold, finds out what happens, there goes that hope. And now begins the suspicion that maybe his father was involved, his father was connected. Vayalchu echav liros. These brothers went liros. Go back to Pasuk Yud Beis. Liros. What do you see over the word S? It's not a trick question. Open the Chumash, page 202, top line. What do you see over the word S? Two dots. S. Son Avi and B'Shchem. S. Why are there two dots? Zok the Heilige Rashi. Says Rashi, Nakud al S, shelo telchu ela liros es atzmam. The reason that you have two dots over the word S is to teach us that you know why they went? They weren't shepherding Yaakov, their father's flock. Why'd they go? To shepherd themselves. They went to indulge themselves. They went to go have fun, to taka make a barbecue. Maybe they snuck a bottle from Yaakov's liquor cabinet. Ve'achu laharos es son aviem, zakt Rashi, es laharos es atzmam. They went for themselves. But how could you say this? Ask the Oiv Yisrael. Who's the Oiv Yisrael? The holy Apter of Rav Mishai Heschel of Apt. This is how we speak about the holy 12 tribes. This is how you speak about the holy 12 sons, that they went to make a barbecue. They brought a bottle. They went to go have fun. They went to indulge. That's how we speak about the Shiftei Ka. Impossible. Says the Oiv Yisrael. Oiv Yisrael's whole parish is Avas Yisrael. He would never speak negatively about the Shiftei Ka, so he's reinterpreting what's happening here to be able to speak positively about these holy 12 sons, about the holy 12 tribes. How does he re-understand it to see it positively? He says the following. What does it mean, Laharos es atzman? Does not mean they went to go shepherd themselves. It means that they went to shepherd themselves. Not right now, when? In the future. What was going to happen in the future? There'd be a famine in Canaan, a famine in the land of Israel. How would they be sustained? What would be the only thing that would enable their survival? Go down to Egypt, where Yosef is, and Yosef is going to give portions to these brothers. Leharos es atzman, to shepherd themselves. It means they went to begin a story that would end with Yosef in Egypt, giving them provisions that would be what sustained them. We never know. We never understand where we are, where we go, how we get there, why we're there. We've been talking in the Amunah Shir the notion Vayifka b'makom, Yesh Elokim b'makom hazeh, because Yesh Hashem b'makom hazeh. Hashem is where we are. He brings us to where we go. A Jew, a Yid, is never stuck. We're never lost. We are where we're meant to be. We're producing great luggage tags with that logo and that language, and a great decal for the windshield when you're driving to look out your car. When you're stuck in traffic or a red light, you make a wrong turn. You are where you're meant to be. Yesh Hashem b'makom hazeh. We are where we're meant to be. So we shared, Hamechen mitzadei gaver. Hashem prepares our footsteps. Where we go is where He leads us. So they think they're going to Shechem to shepherd the sheep. You know why they went to Shechem? To begin the unfolding of a story that would shepherd themselves. They think they're going to shepherd the sheep, the flock. They're going to shepherd themselves, says the Ohev Yisrael, not in a negative, critical way. They're going to only carry barbecue and a beer bottle. No, it means we think that we're going Mechen mitzadei gaver. Hashem prepares our footsteps. He leads us. He takes us on this journey. We don't know why. We don't know where, but He's the one who's taking us. He's the one who's taking us there. Rabbi Milublin understands. We are the tzon of Hashem. They were really shepherding themselves, because this would begin the descent of Yosef to Mitzrayim, which would lead to their provisions and sustaining them altogether. Rabbi Nachman has something on this as well. How do you understand this? Laharos es atzmon, to speak so negatively and critically. They went to shepherd themselves. How could it be? So he says the following. In Likutei Muharan, Rabbi Nachman says there are two ways to worship Hashem. Two paths on Avodas Hashem. Two approaches. Pnimius v'chitzonius. The inner approach and using the outside, the surface. The spiritual way to connect to Hashem is davening and learning and mitzvos. Spiritual, ritual. Haderach hachitzonios is binyanei gashmios. But there's another way to connect to Hashem, and that is to transform and elevate the physical. Eating, drinking, business, commerce, sleeping. We don't bifurcate our lives. There's not the religious experience in shul or when doing a mitzvah, and then when you go out and you do the mundane, now you're not a religious personality or identity. For us, and always, religious experiences everywhere. It's even in the, what seems to be the external, even within the physical. Even within the physical. If they're done, the kedusha u'b'tahara. And this was the machlokas between Rabbi Shimon ben Bar Yochai and Rabbi Yishmael. Remember the Gemara Brachos Daf Lamed Hey? Famous machlokas. Rabbi Yishmael holds, Yesh linog minag derech eretz. You got to go to work. You got to interact in the world. You got to be out there. You got to earn an income and a livelihood and pay bills and farm. And you got to learn Torah also. You got to complement with learning Torah. You got to combine. You got to craft a lifestyle of both. Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai, who was in the cave exclusively sitting and learning full time, comes out and he says, no. Torah matayala. What's going to be with Torah? Kolam, learning full time. Torah, there's no Torah and derech eretz. There's just Torah. There's just Torah. In one of the collected writings of Rav Schwab, based, I think, on a speech he gave at an Aguda conference, there's an essay, and then there was a follow-up essay. Is it Torah and? Famous Yekas. Yekas are Torah im derech eretz. They didn't come up with that. It's a Mishnah in Pirkei Avos. Torah im derech eretz. Hechaver, Gordon. Torah im derech eretz. Torah im. Is there Torah and? I think Rav Schwab was offering it as a criticism, a defense of Torah im derech eretz and a criticism of Torah umada. Is there ever a Torah and something else? There's Torah and Mada. There's a value to education, science, knowledge, livelihood, work, society, culture. Is it Torah and or Torah only? And that's an age-old debate. Goes back to Rav Shimon bar Yochai and Rabbi Yishmael. Torah and or Torah only? Says Rabbi Nachman, that was the debate between Yosef and his brothers. The debate between Yosef and his brothers. Yosef is Torah only. And the brothers are living a Torah and. Torah and. Hashem can be found in the barbecue and the picnic. He can be found in the education and the culture. He can be found in the gym and in the workplace. Hashem can be found even in what seems to be the mundane. Yosef says, that's not the Masorah from our Tata, the Yoshev Olim, Yaakov. It's Torah only. There's Torah only. All there is Torah. All there is Torah. That's the debate. So before Rav Shimon Bar Chai and Rabbi Shmuel, goes all the way back to Yosef and the brothers. And maybe that's what it means. They went liros es atzman. Gam achila v'ashasiya shalem ha'yilashim shamayim. They went to shepherd themselves. Their eating and their drinking was le'atzmam. Was also, they thought they could transform, they could elevate, they could make it real. When they put him in the pit, this is how you understand based on Rabbi Nachman. Listen to this. They put Yosef in the pit. Habor reik, ein bo mayim. The pit was empty, there was no water. Rashi quotes Chazal, if it was empty, obviously there's no water. Why do you have to tell me there's no water? Mayim ein bo nachashim ha'krovim yesh bo. There was no water, but there's snakes and scorpions and all kinds of dangerous animals. But water is a metaphor. Ein mayim ella, Torah. Water is Torah. The brothers put him in a pit without Torah, and they say, can you find Hashem here now? You don't have a sefer. You're not in a beis medrash. There is no chavrusa. Can you find Hashem now without Torah? Torah and you're Torah only? How are you going to do in a pit with no Torah if you're Torah only? That's how, based on Rabbi Nachman, you can interpret why they put him in the pit. And what do? We're going to get to this too, hopefully. Right after they put him in the pit, what do? Lunchtime. Could you imagine? Your brother, your flesh and blood. You're ready to kill him, murder, cold blood. Instead, you put him in a pit with snakes and scorpions, and then someone says, lunch. Barbecue's ready. Let's go. Throw the hamburgers on. Lunch? You'd tear kriya, sit and you'd cry. What have we done? Maybe even if you don't have regret and remorse, at least you feel, Nebuch, I can't believe it came to this. We had no choice. We had to do this, but I can't believe. No. Instead, they say, lunch. Based on Rabbi Nachman, you could understand why they're screaming lunch, because that's exactly the machlokas with Yosef. You're in the pit with no water, with no Torah, because you Torah only, how are you going to survive without Torah? But we who are Torah and from in the pit, you're going to hear us having lunch. You know why? Because we can find Hashem over lunch. Hashem is in the hamburger. Hashem is in a fantastic steak. Black and blue, char on the outside, rare on the inside. Some fried onions, a little sino sauce. Hashem is all over that. Hashem can be found all over that. In the shahako you make before, in the borei nefashos you make afterwards, in the sizzle, in the smell, in the delicious taste, in the melt in your mouth. Too early? Hashem is all over that. It's an incredible insight. Based on this Rabbi Nachman, that's the debate between Yosef and his brothers, and then you plug that into everything. What do you mean they throw him in a pit? Ein mayim, no water, no Torah. They break out with lunch. They're proving it's here. That's what's going on. Roes tzon, roes atzman. They're proving you can find Hashem even in we're shepherding ourselves. It's incredible. Based on that teaching of Reb Nachman, you go back, you plug it in, you can see it in all these ways. Perek Lamed Zayin Pasuk Yud Daled. So going back, Yosef is sent to go find out their well-being. Shalom achecha. I'm going to send you why? To find out Shalom achecha. Next pasuk, Yud Daled. Vayomer lo lech na re'eh shalom ach. Go check out how your brothers are doing. V'shalom atzon and the flock. V'ashiveni davar. And come back and report. Let me know. V'yishlachem me'emek Chevron v'yavo Shechema. So he went from the Emek Chevron and he got to Shechem. We don't have great memories in Shechem. He goes and he gets to Shechem. Listen to this. If you came today just for this, it was worth coming, in addition to the slushy and the coffee. But if you came today for this, it was worth coming. Listen to this. Where is this? Shlom achecha. Pasuk Yud Daled. Tefer Shlomo. The Amaras Torah, the Rachmesh Rivka, quotes the Radomsker. Tefer Shlomo of Radomsk. Lech na, go and see Shlom achecha. Omer bezel Musar Haskel. Hine kol adam tzarech liros ach malos chavero v'lo chesrono. Uleval yadaber alei and lashon hara chas v'shalom. When we look at, when we interact, when we connect with other people, We can choose what to focus on. Do we see their deficiencies, their failures, their shortcomings? Do we see what we abhor, what's repulsive, what we reject in them? Or are we drawn to what's redeeming, what's beautiful, what we have in common, what's noble, what's worth admiring? Everyone, for some it's harder than others, but everyone has something redeemable. Every fellow Jew, at least. There's something redeemable, something admirable, something positive to connect with, something we have in common. But what are we drawn to? Often, it's been said, many of our fellow Jews are highly critical. We're very critical, hypercritical. And we choose first to see what's missing instead of seeing what's there, to see what we reject instead of seeing what we have in common, to see what we could be critical of instead of what we can compliment. And what Yaakov is telling Yosef is, Yosef, you're in this mess. You know why? Because you keep bringing me dibas ra'ah. You keep bringing me all the negative reports, everything you can be critical of, everything you don't have in common, everything you think is wrong in your brothers. So I'm sending you, know why? Re'ei eshalom achecha. Go see the good. Go see what's noble. Go search and seek and find out and uncover. Go acknowledge and articulate the shalom achecha. Go see the good. Go see what you can love. Go see what you have in common. Because as long as all you're going to focus on is the negative, the critical, you can never connect with Hashem, as all you see is what's wrong in others. Because each other is also a tzelem Elokim. Every other person is a piece of Hashem. Find the Hashem in them. Find the tzelem Elokim in them. And that's what the Chavetz Chaim teaches each of us. That's the pasuk. Say it every Shabbos morning. Who is the person of Chavetz Chaim? Who's the person who craves life, long life? Oiv yamim liros tov. Who wants a long life, a good life? So nitzor lashon chamera. Don't speak negatively, critically. Usvasach medaber mirma. Now, what is liros tov? We usually translate, who wants a good and long and happy life? So be careful, guard your tongue, guard your speech. But no, says the Elegant Tifer Shlema the Radamska, that's not how to translate it. Translator, Mia Chavetz Chaim, Mia Isha Chavetz Chaim Oiv Yamim. Who wants a long life? You want longevity, good health, happiness? The answer, Liros Tov. Look for the Tov in your friend. Look for the good. If you walk around miserable, farbisan, and negative, hypercritical, you're going to be miserable. You're going to have high blood pressure. You're going to ruin your physical, your emotional, your spiritual, your relationships. You're going to have a terrible life. You're really chafetz chaim. You really want a good life? Oiv yamim, longevity? Liros tov. Have an ayin tov. See positively, see good. Compliment, don't criticize. Sheyira ach v'rakas atov shel chaveiro. V'lo yidaber alav lashon hara. Aydei zeh yekayim sur me'irav v'asei tov. Aydei shmiras hadibur yachol alav sur me'irav v'asei tov. And that's what's going on over here. V'zeh omro kan. Lech na re'eh shlam achecha. Hinei zeh haya derech Yosef HaTzadik. She'amevi dibasam ra'ah lavim. Until now, you're bringing dibasam ra'ah. All you can ever talk about, all you ever report on, is what's wrong with your brothers. How about you go to the field, go check them out, go give a look, and go find something good to say. Go find something positive. Go find something redeemable. Go find something you can compliment. Go find a way you can connect. God bless my family. They're in trouble. Go find something that you can bless. L'chein amar lo Yaakov lech na re'eh shlom achecha sheyeh rak hatov v'hamalos eitzel echav. Go see the good. I want to share with you, my friend Rabbi Schiff in England, Jewish Futures, produced this. I love it. It's beautiful. See what this is? An eye chart. Okay, so obviously you don't need cataracts right now. Not stam an eye chart. This is the great Rav Elimelech of Lezhinsk. The great Rav Elimelech, the Rebbe Rav Elimelech of Lezhinsk, has a tzetel katan. In his tzetel katan, he writes, Shenire kolachad malos chavereinu v'lo chesronam. Avram Fried made it famous in a beautiful song. Shenire kolachad malos chavereinu. What's the name of the song? How does the song begin? Somebody will remember or comment. Shenira kol echad malas chavereinu. Halavai, we daven this setel katan, we daven Hashem, let us merit, Shenira kol echad, that each of us will see ma'alas chavereinu, the milas of our friends, v'lo chesronan. So he turned it into an eye chart. Let us see in the big letters, Shenira kol echad, let us in the big letters, the easy letters, you could easily see the milas, and then chesronam is in little letters on the bottom. We can't see that. That vision we don't have to have vision for. To see the chesronos, we don't have to see the chesronos. It's fantastic. It's great to hang up in your house, near your Shabbos table or your dinner table, wherever you're going to talk. Malas chaveh, hang it up at the mahjong game, hang it up at the, wherever you're going to hang out, the barbecue, hang it up with the kiddush club. Malas chaveirenu. Shenira, we should be zocha. We should be zocha to see liros tov, a tov ayin, see the good. And like Yaakov sent Yosef, because Yaakov now diagnosed, what's the problem? He keeps bringing dibas ra. He keeps speaking the negative. I need Yosef to break through and see something positive. I need him to see a connection. I need him to see something that they have in common. I need him to see that there's something here. I need him to see there's something here. In fact, Soloveitchik points out, what's the problem? When Yosef now goes to his brothers, Perek Lamed Zayin Pasuk Yud Ches, Perek Lamed Zayin Pasuk Yud Ches, Vayeru Oso, he now approaches them, and what happens? What does he see? What's the next word in the pasuk? Vayeru Oso Meirachok. They saw him from afar. They see Yosef approaching. Meirachok, writes the Rav. Yosef's brothers always viewed him rachok, from afar. At the moment that he tried to come close, they rejected him. He appeared strange to his brothers. They couldn't perceive the beauty hidden in the soul of their younger brother. His sanctity was hidden behind the curtain of his external appearance, which intervened to hide the sublime and the wondrous within him. The coat of many colors, the external covered what was taking place underneath. To his brothers, his beauty was superficial, a son charming to the eye. Only his father understood his handsome son with the flowing locks of hair, with the dream filled within eyes. Only his father understood the dream implanted within him. Meirachok. You know when brothers stop talking to each other, can't even give a shalom aleichem to each other, is when we see each other meirachok. When we put that distance, when we see the other from afar. Yeah, that's the person in the other minyan. They send their kids to the other school. They live in the other development. They wear the other kind of yarmulke. They voted for the other candidate. They root for the other team. When we see the person from afar, they're the other, then we have the sinas chinam. That is the story that we suffer from until today. Until today. Rav Wolbe writes, what's the Hebrew word for cruel? Achzar. Because the word achzar is ach, zar. Zar is a stranger. When are you cruel to someone else? Ach, zar. They're just a stranger. They're the other. When we make someone the other, it's easy to be cruel to them. But if they weren't the other, if they were me, no one's cruel to themselves. So did it ever happen you were sat at that wedding? Or you were sitting, waiting somewhere with the person who until now was meirachok? They were the other. But when you actually finally broke through and you started to talk and you connected and you shared in common, you found that there was something to connect to. That's the answer, that's the antidote. That's why Yaakov sends Yosef, go see the shalom echav, go see the good in your brother, go see what's there. Perek Lamed Tes Pasuk Aleph. Skip all the way. We're skipping the whole story of Yehuda and Tamar. We've discussed it in the past. We're skipping it not because of why we skip it in school. You're grown-ups, I'm a grown-up. We could have studied it. So we're not skipping it for the reasons it's skipped in school. We're skipping it because we've covered it before. Perek Lamed Tes Pasuk Aleph. V'Yosef hurad Mitzrayma v'yikneu Potifar Sris Paros Har Tabachim Ish Mitzrim Yad Ishmaelim Asher Horidu Shama. Yosef had been brought down to Egypt. Potifar, who is works for Paro, the chamberlain of the butchers, a prominent Egyptian, purchased him from the Ishmaelim who had brought him down there. Yosef hurad Mitzrayma. He is brought down to Egypt. Says the Holy Rach Meshrivka. This language is quoting here from the Mor V'Shemesh. Vayehi is Lashon Tsar. What's the Lashon Tsar? Vayehi. Lashon Tsar. Why is Yosef sad? Shegam HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yared Imo V'Nitztar Imo B'Tzaraso. Because Hashem went with him down to Egypt. When we're suffering, when we're struggling, these last 15 months, when Klal Yisrael and Am Yisrael, when each of us individually are going through a hard time, Hashem is imo anochi b'tzara. Umizeh atzmo nitosef tzar liYosef agolas hashchina shenimtza imo. Yosef is suffering twofold. First, because he is in Egypt, but also because of him, Hashem had to come down to Egypt. He's suffering for himself, and he's suffering at the thought of Hashem suffering. V'nimtza shayalo shnei minei tzar al atzmo shebebeis Adonav HaMitzri v'hina vayi Hashem es Yosef. Bizman she'adam b'tzar ariu alul lipol v'la'atzvos. When a person is b'tzar, when a person is suffering, they often fall to a place of sadness. But sadness is a gefer lechazach. Atzvos, he writes, Al ken asa Yosef kol minei pulos lios b'simcha. Yosef understood what Rabbi Nachman dedicated his life to, more of a shemesh with many others. Sadness is the kryptonite of Klal Yisrael. When we're sad, when we're down and out, when we're depressed, when we're despondent, when we're hopeless, we become helpless. Yetzer hara can bring us right down. We'll give up. We'll make poor decisions. It's over. A Yid has to remain b'simcha. A Jew has to find a way to put a smile on our face. Kafatz v'rakar v'kedeshia b'simcha. Yosef, even though he's sold into slavery, abandoned by his father and by his brothers, or he perceives his father and by his brothers, and ultimately falsely accused and sitting in slavery, he stubbornly continues to smile and to be positive and to fight off that depressive state. I'm not talking about clinical depression. That's not our fault. That's chemical that needs to be treated. Chalila, God forbid, no one should ever be judgmental. I'm talking about non-clinical, but what we can control, all of us, to choose. Happiness is a choice. It's not an emotion. Choose happiness. Choose happiness. And it's the way out. It's the way out. Mishenichnas av mematen besimcha. He teaches, he translates, Mishenichnas av mematen how? Besimcha. Besimcha. Mishenichnas av mematen, but how? Besimcha. That's Vayehi ish matzliach. Yosef becomes an ish matzliach. How does he become an ish matzliach even in those conditions and even in that place? How and why? Because he stubbornly continued to be besimcha. He remained positive with a smile. He remained happy. He remained happy. And that's why, fast forward to the end of the Parsha, we didn't get to it 2 years ago, we're not getting into it again now. But if you fast forward, Perek Mem Pasuk Zion will end with this. Yosef ultimately finds himself in prison. He's with the Sarah Mashkim and the Sarah Ophim. And what does he say to them? He says iconic words that are the catalyst that got him out of there, that led to his freedom, that led to his rising to be the viceroy of Egypt, that led to the Jewish people going down to Egypt, that led to the birth of our people. And what were the words that began it all, without which who knows where we would be? What does he say? Perek Mem Pasuk Zion. He asks them, Vayishal Srisei Paro Asher Ito B'Mishpar Beis Adonav Lemor Madua Pnechem Ra'im Hayom. What's going on? Why are you so sad today? Now Yosef's sitting in prison, had every right to worry about himself. Why is he turning and looking at these two strangers and asking, hey, brothers, what's with the sad face? What's with the long face? What's going on? And so here they are sitting in prison, every man for himself, and all of a sudden a stranger is asking them why they're sad and what's going on. They share about their dreams. He interprets them. Remember him. He gets out. It leads to his freedom and to the rest of the story. All because he bothered to turn to them to say, why are you so sad? Now, first of all, what day on the Hebrew calendar was that? Anyone know? Gemara tells us in Rosh Hashanah, it was Rosh Hashanah. It was Rosh Hashanah. You want a new beginning in your life? Care about other people who are sad. Ask them why they're sad. Relieve them of their sadness. Make them better and happier. That's a new Rosh Hashanah. A new beginning for us comes when we care about other people. It begins his freedom because Yosef says, Madua Pnechem Ra'im. I'll leave you with a fourth question to think about. I was going to give you the answer, but we don't have time. He should have said, Madua Pnechem, why are your faces sad today? He says, why are your faces Ra'im Hayom? What does Ra'im mean? Bad. He doesn't say what's with the sad face. He says what's with the bad face. Why does he call a sad face a bad face? Say a Parshas Vayeishev, Tafshin Pei Vav, hopefully in Yerushalayim, Ira Kodesh, all of us together. May we hear Besoros Tovos. Please remain to say all of Sefer Tehillim. We should hear Besoros Tovos, Yeshuos, V'nechamos.